Ronald Acuña Jr. is one of the best players in baseball, and ever since he stepped foot into the league, he has shown a combination of power and speed unheard of in MLB history, which has helped him become a 4-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, Rookie of the Year, and MVP winner all before his 27th birthday, recognition most players never come close to. However, he has barely scratched the surface of what he's capable of, because over the past few years, several major injuries have limited his availability, and if he's not careful, it could ruin his chances of making the Hall of Fame, but he wasn't always the injury-prone player he is labeled as today. When Acuña made his debut in 2018, the Braves were in the midst of one of their worst 4-year stretches in franchise history, managing just 286 wins, ranking 28th in all of baseball. That's why his debut was so heavily anticipated. After all, he was the most polished prospect the Braves had developed since Andrew Jones debuted back in 1996. And in his first game, he went 1 for 5 with a single off of Kevin Shackelford to get the 8th inning going, then showed off his speed, scoring from a Kurt Suzuki single to center field, helping the Braves come back and win 5-4 in his debut. It wasn't as impactful as Kyle Farmer's back in 2017 when he was the walk-off hero, or Daniel Nava's when he hit a first-pitch grand slam back in 2010, but it was still a solid debut for the youngest player in baseball, because even when he got out, he managed to get people up from their seats. For example, in his first at-bat, he sent this ball 100.8 miles per hour off the bat all the way to the warning track in deep right center field. Then in the third, he sent another deep fly ball, this time to right field at 97.4 miles per hour off the bat, helping give immense excitement for the rest of his 2018 campaign. But throughout his first 43 games, there was definitely a learning curve, because despite making good contact on pitches, he wasn't getting results, striking out 56 times with just a 249 average and 742 OPS. However, following his 3 for 4 performance, including a solo home run against the Washington Nationals on July 20th, his luck started to turn around. And for the rest of the season, he was one of the most dominant players in the game. In fact, from July 20th onward, his 19 home runs were tied for the 4th most in baseball. His 1,028 OPS ranked as the 3rd best, only behind Christian Yelich and Justin Turner. And finally, in terms of WAR, he once again ranked 3rd, ahead of the likes of Mookie Betts and Alex Bregman. In the end, his stellar second half helped the Braves, who were given just a 3.2% chance by Fangraphs to make the playoffs entering the season, secure the NL East and their first postseason berth in 5 years. And during the playoffs, Acuña made history as the youngest player to ever hit a grand slam in the postseason, with his blast off of Walker Buehler in the bottom of the 2nd in Game 3 of the NLDS. And while they did get knocked out in the next game, it was nonetheless a stellar rookie season for Acuña, finishing 12th in MVP voting and 1st in the Rookie of the Year award, ahead of Juan Soto, who had a 923 OPS in 116 games, and Walker Buehler, who had a 262 ERA in 24. So because of this, there was great anticipation for him entering his sophomore season, and just days into the new campaign, he and the Braves came together to sign an 8-year, $100 million contract with team options for the 2027 and 2028 seasons. This was a huge milestone in baseball contracts, as he became the youngest player to sign a 9-figure deal by a wide margin, and he also signed the largest contract for a player with less than 1 year of service time. And now, with the weight of a huge contract on his shoulders, he showed out, producing one of the greatest seasons for a 21-year-old in MLB history. By the All-Star break, he managed a 292 average and an 882 OPS, helping him become the starting right fielder for the NL during the Midsummer Classic. But it was his 21 homers which helped him take part in the Home Run Derby, where he cruised past Josh Bell in the first round, managing 25 homers compared to Bell's 18. But in the second, he was outslugged by Mets first baseman Pete Alonso, who went on to win the competition. Fast forward a couple months to September 19th, when he hit his 40th homer of the season off Aaron Nola, helping him join the exclusive 40-homer, 30 stolen base club, becoming the youngest ever to reach the milestone. And by the end of the year, he had impressive totals, managing to lead baseball with 127 runs scored, the 7th most homers at 41, the most stolen bases in the NL at 37, and a more than stellar 883 OPS, helping the Braves build upon their previous season's success, finishing 1st in the NL East at 97 and 65, though they were knocked out once once again in the NLDS, this time to the St. Louis Cardinals. However, it was clear they had a budding superstar in Ronald Acuña Jr. who took home his first All-Star nod, Silver-Slugger award, and this time a 5th place finish in MVP. But this is where his career starts to veer off from those traditional of the game's best players, and the first obstacle he faced he had nothing to do with, that being the shortened 2020 season. There was nothing wrong with his numbers. He was as dominant as ever, posting an OPS plus mark higher than the first 2 seasons. He even managed to hit a 495-foot mammoth home run, which was not only the longest in 2020, but also in Truist Park history. He also hit a homer on average of every 14.4 plate appearances, better than the 17.4 figure he had in 2019 and the 18.7 mark he had his rookie season. It was safe to say he was performing as well as he ever had on a game-to-game basis. It wasn't in his control how many games were played that season, but regardless, he was only able to log 46. And in the playoffs, the Braves fell 1 win shy of their first World Series appearance in over 20 years. So entering 2021, it was safe to say that this team was in World Series or bust mode, and it definitely helped that from the get-go, Acuña was ready. Through April, he already had 8 homers, a .341 average, and an over 1100 OPS, helping him win the NL Rookie of the Month award. And over the next few months, he would continue this form, highlighted by his first ever walk-off home run, giving the Braves a 5-4 comeback win over the New York Mets on May 19th. And by July 10th, he was tied for the 5th most homers in baseball at 24, the 4th highest OPS just below 1,000 at 990, and finally the 3rd best WAR among field players, barely trailing Fernando Tatis Jr. for first place. He was well on his way to becoming an MVP finalist and potential winner, but while trying to track down a fly ball on July 10th, the whole outlook on his career took a steep turn as he suffered a torn ACL in his right knee, ending his season. This was a big blow. As most of you know, the ACL, or otherwise known as the anterior cruciate ligament, is one of the most important elements in stabilizing the knee joint, and when it's torn, it's a grueling recovery. For reference, an article titled "Return to Play After Anterior Cruciate Ligament Reconstruction in Major League Baseball Athletes" found that players who tore their rear batting leg like Acuña saw a decrease of 12.3% in batting average the following year. Furthermore, it is found that players experience a dip of roughly 21.2% of their total games from their previous full season. So for Acuña, this meant a challenge, stating via Instagram, "A year from now, we will see who is really putting in work. See you soon, 2022. And he was right. During the rest of 2021 and 2022, he made sure to be articulate with everything regarding the rehab process. And after spending a few weeks at AAA to start the 2022 season, he was activated on April 27th in front of 34,000 Braves fans who were happy to see their superstar finally return. But his 2022 production was far from the typical numbers we had become accustomed to from Acuña, as he posted just 15 homers as well as the lowest OPS plus of his career at 112. The reason why can be pinpointed due to the fact that his rear batting leg was injured, and in baseball, the back leg is vital to help the batter maintain balance and generate the majority of their power in their swing. That's why it was no shock to see his home run rate plummet significantly, and to add fuel to the fire, his back leg being injured caused him to be late on velocity. For example, in 2021, he hit 18 homers with a .292 average and .632 slug against the fastball. But in 2022, those numbers dropped to just 10 homers, a .238 average, and a slug of .405. It was obvious Acuña was nowhere close to being 100%, and to make matters worse, his sprint speed, which never ranked lower than the 95th percentile every year of his career, suddenly dropped all the way to the 82nd. And because of his decline in speed, his defense also took a massive hit. For example, in terms of outs above average, a stat which is a range-based metric of skill that shows how many outs a player has saved, he ranked as the second worst defensive right fielder in baseball, only ahead of Nicholas Castellanos. But the silver lining here is that most studies conclude it can take roughly 18 to 24 months for the knee to get back to feeling 100%, giving us more proof that he wasn't feeling right throughout the season. That's why it was strange to see the Braves push Acuña into an everyday role quickly upon his return when he wasn't supposed to play more than 3 games in a row and needed to spend more time at DH. And by rushing him back to being a regular, we can see a clear dip in production as the season went on, shown by his 848 OPS in his first 44 games compared to the 715 figure he posted in his last 75. And in the end, his 2022 season was far from ideal, but coming back from injury, it was expected his production wouldn't be as elite. That's why his 2023 season was heavily anticipated, especially when he mentioned this prior to opening day: "I'm not going to have any pain. I'm going to be fully healthy and I'm going to be able to do whatever I'm capable of doing on the field." After saying this, it's fitting that Acuña's 2023 season was one of the most unique in MLB history, as his ability to combine both power and speed was something we've never witnessed before. In April, he won NL Player of the Month after batting .352 with 13 stolen bases. Then in July, he stole his 50th bag of the campaign, becoming the first player since 2017 to accomplish this feat when there was over 50 games left in the season. And by the end of the year, he tallied 41 home runs and 73 bags swiped, creating the 40-50 club, 40-60, and 40-70. And as a result of this, the baseball world was going crazy about how impressive Ronald Acuña Jr. was, because while his rookie and sophomore seasons were elite, we weren't able to witness a full season of his from 2020 to 2022. But 2023 was the year he pieced everything together and nobody could get close to his level. In the National League, he led in plate appearances, at-bats, runs scored, hits, stolen bases, on-base percentage, OPS, OPS plus, and total bases, en route to his 4th All-Star selection, 3rd silver-slugger, and 1st MVP of his career. And after being crowned with the most prestigious individual honor in the game, he had some words to say. "From the day that I got to the league, I always knew I wanted to win the MVP. It was always a dream of mine, and I'm living a dream come true. It meant a lot to me to be able to bounce back after I was hurt." This was a heartwarming story for Acuña to come back and make such an impact after his ACL injury, not only inspiring his teammates from his ability to lead by example, but also other athletes going through similar injuries. And he accomplished this by first getting healthy, but also making a huge change in his approach. Take a look at these two swings, with the left from 2022 and the right from 2023. As you can see, when gearing up for the pitch, his body is closed on the left, while on the right, he's much more open and you're able to see his back knee. And finally, when looking at where his front foot is planted, in 2022 it's pointed towards right field, while in 2023 it's pointed towards center. This change in swing allowed him to once again kill velocity. As mentioned, in 2022, he hit 10 homers with a .248 average and .405 slug against it. But in 2023, he hit 23 homers with a .341 average and a slugging percentage of .579, which is not only a massive improvement, but also career high marks against this pitch. And in addition to his extreme improvement on the fastball, he had an equally impressive time eliminating strikeouts from his game. For example, some of the league's most powerful hitters, such as Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, both strike out about 25% of the time. As for Acuña, we can see each year he has been more or less around this figure, but in 2023 he halved his strikeout percentage to just 11.4%. For reference, that was the 6th lowest in baseball, something uncommon for today's generation of power hitters. In fact, his over 12% decrease in strikeout percentage from 2022 is the 2nd largest in a season in MLB history. And this dip in strikeouts basically gave Acuña almost 100 more balls put into play, which makes it no surprise he posted by far the highest batting average of his career at .337, 44 points higher than his 2nd best from his rookie season. And in the end, he helped the Braves to a 1st place finish in the NL East for the 6th consecutive year, this time doing so with their most wins at 104, making them the consensus World Series favorites entering the postseason. But instead of the deep run most pegged them for, they were knocked out for the 2nd straight year by the Philadelphia Phillies in the NLDS, and Acuña went just 2 for 14. Now, this hasn't been a one-off thing for him, as he has yet to find great success in the postseason. In his 29 games, he has recorded just 3 home runs, a .257 average, and .817 OPS. He understood this, so instead of coming into 2024 spring training cocky as the reigning MVP winner, he was instead apologetic about his playoff performances. At this point, the Braves have been knocked out of the playoffs in back-to-back years in the 1st round, but entering the 2024 season, they were once again favorites to hoist the World Series trophy. And to better their chances, the club went out and acquired former World Series winner Chris Sale, as well as flame-throwing reliever Reynaldo Lopez to shore up the rotation. But Acuña, the man they thought they could count on to be the driving force force in their offense never seemed to get going in the new year. By the end of April, he had just 1 home run while hitting .245 with a .685 OPS, and towards the end of May, while he did raise these numbers, it was far from the Acuña we had witnessed just the year prior. Just take a look at his swing. We already uncovered in 2022, his down year, that he was in a closed body shape and made him late on velocity. Then in 2023, he was open, which helped him generate a quicker and more powerful swing, getting him back on heaters. But in 2024, his swing looked a lot more like 2022 with a closed body position, and in his follow through, his front leg was once again pointed towards right field. Because of this change in swing, you probably guessed it, he once again struggled with fastballs this season, managing a .224 average and .353 slug. Additionally, pitchers figured out this weakness and threw them 6.9% more often this season, and due to his lack of success against this pitch, his strikeout percentage, which was at an elite 11.4% last year, jumped back up to his career average around 25. But despite all of this, by far the worst part about his 2024 campaign came on May 26 against the Pittsburgh Pirates, as he suffered another ACL injury while trying to time up the catcher's throw back to the pitcher. Initially, Acuña believed this was similar to the same ACL sprain he had in Boston back in 2018, which only cost him a month of action, but an MRI later revealed he had fully torn his ACL for the second time in 4 years. This was overwhelming for Acuña. He even mentioned he had been crying at home by himself because he felt like he was the one abandoning his team. It was without question a sad day all around in baseball, as we once again lost one of the game's most exciting players. Which brings me to the premise of this video. Over the past 5 years, due to injury and external factors not in his control, he has played just 455 games, or an average of 91 per season. 2020 was the abbreviated campaign, then 2021 he was on his way to an MVP before getting hurt and having his season cut short. 2022 he was a shell of himself while recovering from injury, then in 2023 we finally got to witness him for a full season for just the second time in his career, and he displayed a combination of power and speed we had never seen before. And finally, in 2024, an ACL tear has once again ended his year early, and if his 2022 season is any indication of how he performs post ACL surgery, it doesn't look well for next season. If this is the case, it's hard not to think about what has already been lost with Acuña, because he has the accolades. He's a 4-time All-Star, 3-time silver-slugger, Rookie of the Year winner, and an MVP, all of this by his 26th birthday. Recognition most players don't ever come close to matching, but despite this, his WAR total of 25.8 through his age 26 season ranks 53rd among outfielders in MLB history, behind guys like Grady Sizemore and Jason Hayward. Looking furthermore at Hall of Fame monitors, the average Hall of Fame right fielder accumulates 71.1 WAR throughout their career, and during their average 7-year peak, they had 42.4, 16.6 higher than Acuña's first 7 seasons. Now, he still has a long career ahead of him, and who's to say this will be the best 7 years of his career, but after ACL tears in both knees, it will make it hard for him to stay at an elite level as he gets older, which means the Braves need to ensure he can stay healthy, and it all starts with limiting the stress he puts on his body, something his manager has been preaching after his first injury by telling him to slow down while playing, and to not exert 110% effort trying to beat out every ground ball or try and make an unbelievable catch at the wall every time. But as we have seen, this still didn't save him from another major injury. So there needs to be more of an effort to keep him fresh while playing. As mentioned in 2022, when he returned from his first ACL, he wasn't supposed to play 3 games in a row and should have spent more time at DH. But this wasn't the case, as he was thrusted back as a regular quickly, and it was clear his production dipped because of it. Then in 2023, after 11 spring training games, 159 regular season, and 4 playoff, the Braves allowed him to go and spend time playing in the Venezuelan Winter League, where he took part in 21 more games. Which is a bit strange, because the off-season is a time for players to reset from all the strain they put on their body during the season. By not having a break, the likelihood of his production dipping as well as getting injured rose dramatically, and as we saw, this turned out to be the case, which makes it clear that limiting the load he puts on his body is a key to success for Acuña, and something he must learn after his second major knee injury, or else we will be talking the same way about him as Troy Tulowitzki.